Hi, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Spilling the Tea on GovCon. I'm Teresa Moon, Director of Business Development for Parabolis. We provide a better financial partnership for government contractors that includes a line of credit to fund your growth. The purpose of this podcast is to assist small businesses with success in the federal marketplace by introducing them to industry experts and resources that they may not otherwise know about. Today, my guest is Marc Goldschmitt, Navy veteran and owner at Goldschmitt and Associates. Welcome, Marc.
Hey, good morning, Teresa.
Good morning.
How are we?
I'm great. I'm so excited to see you on a Monday morning. It's always nice to wake up. Podcasting is one of my favorite things to do, so I'm glad that you're here to join me.
I'm glad you specified it's a Monday morning because that gives me some excuse for some of the things I may or may not say.
Hey, I can't wait. And we met through mutual friend Mark Amtower, and he's kind of the same way. So I'm excited for anything that could come about in this conversation and where we could go with it. So, you've been in the industry for the better part of 30 years. And so if you wouldn't mind, based off of your experience, give our listenership a little bit of your backstory, including a little bit of your experience with your service to our country, your transition into the government contracting industry, and a high-level overview of what you all do at your company.
Quick summary. I was not born in a log cabin, but I spent a couple of years as a Navy pilot, flight instructor, and then working on a staff doing essentially training for the fleet in electronic warfare, so fleet readiness, exercises, etc. Had enough of the Navy for a while, and it was a couple of years before I joined the reserve, but I went to work for some large businesses, IBM, GE, started in the government contracting path with GE with large systems, avionic systems, and lots of people to help with the learning curve. It essentially started moving into smaller businesses, and I had an interjection of a tour with back as a blue suitor, working for the Office of the Secretary of Defense for Reserve Affairs, where I was managing all of their IT systems. And during that period, got notoriety as one of the first top 10 for Computer World, or Info World, I guess it was. I get them all mixed up, as I get into the old age part. But for one of the top 10s for client server. And from there, I've been in the small business community for about the last 25 years.
Wow.
So it's been looking at, having seen both sides of the fence, having served as a government person writing specifications, a contractor trying to interpret those specifications and requirements. I can say for the audience, it's a hell of a lot harder to write the requirements and the specifications than it is to try and interpret and address them. So I think both sides are important for businesses to understand what the processes are. Because as I see things moving right now, you're moving more into some of the reverse industry days, which are starting to specify, hey, we want to get earlier conversations going with industry so that we can refine what our specifications are, what our requirements are, and have better procurements.
Right.
So as we go down that path, we'll start to see how some of that knowledge and experience can be translated. Subsequent to that, I started Goldschmitt and Associates, went back and forth with a couple of different small businesses, learned a lot of lessons about what to do, probably more lessons about what not to do. And I like to put things in terms of I've had my successors and I've had my lessons learned. So like everybody out there, a lot of lessons learned that other folks can take advantage of.
Yes.
I don't like to see other people do some of the big mistakes that lessons learned that I did. So it's a continual, let's help in a almost mentoring kind of way.
Absolutely.
So we can go down that path.
I love that. And that's exactly, after having met you, why I thought it was so beneficial to have you on to speak to our listenership, because we talk a lot on this program about how important it is for business leaders to share their stories with others in the industry. And the reasons are exactly what you described. You inspire people to keep going when things get tough, And they always inevitably get tough, but through the lessons learned from your own experience, things not to do, all of which are invaluable to the newer and growing government contractors. You know, given your tenure and your experience in the industry, you can truly assist people just based off of how you navigated it before they got into the game. And that's such a huge world of knowledge for those businesses that are craving and understanding about how to make it work and why not to give up. Because, you know, stereotypically we see that businesses that make it to the 5-year mark have a hard time getting over that 5th year and really making an impact in the industry to the point where they stay long term. And so a lot of that is because they just don't see the light at the end of the tunnel and the enormity of the possibilities within government contracting. And that's why I thought it's so impactful to have someone with your level of expertise and tenure and your level of success as well. It wasn't earned overnight and it wasn't earned easily. You've had a go at it, and everything that you accomplished along the way didn't come with its fair share of hardships and heartache, I'm sure. And something in particular that I thought was amazing that you and I chatted about when we spoke about this program was, you know, the ability for you to elaborate on what the difference is between being procurement ready and business ready, that you've had discussions with other people within the industry about the difference between the two and what that means. And I found it so fascinating. And so if you wouldn't mind elaborating a bit on that, what's the difference between the two, and why should a business owner engaging in the federal marketplace take note of the differences that both of those practices entail?
There's a couple of pieces that go into both. And when you talk procurement ready versus business ready, it's more of a matter of perspective. So what I'm going to do first is set up a little bit of a definition of how I see procurement ready and how I see business ready. It's not the world's only definitions of each, but essentially procurement ready, as I see it, came and originated from the government. And it was the context of what do the government buyers expect and want to see from their contractors. Now, what's it going to take to be able to get in a position to bid and win a contract? So the simple definition, procurement ready, means in the eyes of the procurement decision makers, you have the capability to be able to implement and execute their requirement. You notice I didn't leave a few words. There are a few words I left out of that. Mm-hmm. Generally, there's a successfully implement, but it really is the focus on what does the government want to see in a business to get. So you're not, doesn't mean you're competitive. It just means you may have an opportunity to bid and have some expectation you can have a positive P-win. Mm-hmm. Business ready, on the other hand, looks at the business side and it's more of an internal focus. What do I need to do to succeed, grow, and maintain and sustain a growth path? So it's a little bit different context, but the same. Ultimately, they're both the same, and it's a mechanism that gives me a framework that I can succeed. Mm-hmm. In the context of government contracting, procurement ready and business ready, when you're first starting out and you've just hung your shingle out, you just registered on SAM, and you just said, hey, whatever I'm going to go after, they're essentially the same thing. Because the things that are important for the procurement ready piece are really the important piece for the business ready piece. I got to put food on the table.
Right.
So that's really the first objective. Where you start to see a differentiation between the two is once you start to achieve some level of business, some level of success, and it's then how you approach some of these that becomes significant. For example, in a business ready state, you have all of these things in HR, you have in finance, mm-hmm. quality assurance, business development. As you go through every area of your business, you start to differentiate between the business ready, what do I need, and the procurement ready. For example, in the business ready side, I may start looking more at return on investment mm-hmm. than I would be just, can I win it? You know, one of the secrets that I know a bunch of people are going to take issue with is, as a subcontractor, I have a much higher return on investment than I do as a prime contractor. And a lot of reasons with a lot of different contracts, but essentially the cost to me of bidding, back up, the cost to me of doing the identification, qualification, capture, bidding, and then management of a contract is very significant. Irrespective of whether I do it alone or if I add subcontractors or if I have a GWAC, that costs really go up. As a subcontractor, I may supply one past performance, a little bit of writing, and essentially my cost is probably less than anywhere from 1% to 2% of what it is for a prime bid. So when I start looking at it in that context, I can look at a lot of subcontracts versus one or two prime contracts.
Right.
Which flows back into the procurement ready versus business ready, because with the subcontracts, I can provide a foundation with which I can bid as a prime contractor, which is usually the ultimate goal of both procurement ready and business ready. So, but I'm looking at it from the different context. So it's what I hear a lot in the industry is, well, you don't get paid as much, because the prime contractor is going to take some off the top.
Right.
And you don't have a lot of control. And to a degree, that's correct. But from a business perspective, I'm getting probably 5 or 10 times the return on my investment. They may be smaller, they may be more incremental. But when you start adding them up, that's a big return and a big foundational piece that I think a lot of people miss as you're going through the different stages. And it's one of the first areas where you can start on your own separating the procurement ready versus business ready philosophy.
I think that that's so great, because a lot of the newer businesses and business leaders that I speak to, they think the end goal is a prime contract, and they don't look at it from a financial perspective as soon as they should. And I think that that's a great indicator that you have presented here that a lot of people need to look at. It's the overall management of what a prime contract looks like as opposed to a subcontract. And it's the past performance portion of it as well. You're going to generate a lot of past performance with potentially several different prime contractors that can attest to the fact that you can do one or multiple proficiencies that are applicable to all of the things that you can do. So for that P-win perspective of it all, you're adding people into the game that can speak on your behalf too, that have clout already within the government contracting industry that can say, yes, I've worked with this company and they've done this, this, and this for me. So when you go to actually do that prime contract, when you're ready and able to take on all of the different facets that go into it, you've got people that can back you up and are going to say, yes, you can trust that they can perform, because look at all of these times that we've used them, that they did just that.
Exactly. I think I have a brief that I put together several years ago on procurement ready. So therefore, I'm blamed as being one of the procurement ready people. And one of the reasons I did it the way that I did was no one was accepting the term business ready, because that wasn't something that our customers were speaking about. So, and it wasn't something that folks were looking at and saying, oh, what's the differentiation? And I think now that we're beginning to ask that question, we can look at what the differentiation is. I can be procurement ready for the customer, but be business ready, and look at how those things play together.
It's all about being prepared. I mean, my mantra this year, based off of, our function within the industry, is if you win it, can you fund it? Because so often people don't take a look at what that means until way after the fact of it being necessary in their process. And so we try to engage with companies pre-proposal time so that they know, hey, if we put a team together and this business development team goes and nurtures that relationship, and then capture team puts together a great proposal, and then BD goes out and they win it, did we have the necessary means to perform all the way through from a financial perspective? And sometimes it doesn't meet accurately, right? And that's an important piece of it. So I love how the business ready and the procurement ready meet in the middle, because if one is off, the whole process is off. So even though they're different, one's internal, one's external, right? even though they're different, if they're not in unison in many overlapping areas, the end result is going to be the same, and it's not going to be a good one. And so I love that we've been able to hash that out a bit. And if you wouldn't mind sharing with me the brief that you put together on Procurement Ready, I'd love to be able to give you credit for it and share it out to our network, because this is something that isn't talked about all the time.
What I'll do is I have the Procurement Ready piece that you can take a look at, but as you go through there, you'll see that the essence of the underlying foundation is one of the business steps, the business ready steps you have to do in order to get there. For example, I talk about things like I can't remember the term.
I put you on the spot. Blame it on me.
It's Monday morning.
That's right.
The small business set-asides that are under the threshold, you know, the 250K threshold, very low risk, very low for both the government and the contractor. And so consequently, it's a way you can get in the door with small incremental pieces. And when you look at the procurement ready piece, you're really putting food on the table for you and maybe somebody else by going and doing that. You're getting the experience to go through and be able to bid larger contracts. You know, so essentially they're lower thresholds for things like micro purchase.
Right.
Simplified acquisition.
Yeah. I was just about to say, we have a good buddy of the program, Guy Timberlake, that he likes to talk about the benefits to simplified acquisition. So I hear you.
Who's that guy who?
Guy Timberlake. Go-to guy.
Yeah, he was, I took his class and he pointed out, hey, that guy Goldschmitt has one of these simplified acquisitions. Like, I do. But it was an important step and milestone. And I'll tell you, even now, as we go through, and we've considerably increased our revenue since that time, many times over. I still look at some of the things and the strategies of the simplified acquisition as being a first step into an agency. We've got a small task right now. It's about 3 months long, not very large, but it's a very significant project that fits in very well with what our past performance has been, so that we can bring a lot to a customer. So we'll go through the first phase, and there's an expectation that's going to set us up for a much larger, much longer procurement. So it really is the thing of, you're eating an elephant when you start out in the business. And other than the traditional watch out for the waterfall, watch out for the falling rocks, you're really taking one bite at a time. And while you're doing that, you've got all kinds of other predators nipping at your heels. So that you've got to be able to start out at a reasonable pace, and essentially go very slowly through the elephant process, and really it's the one bite at a time. Yeah,
I think too many people get too excited about getting to the next step. I even, you know, even from the perspective of certifications and things like that, we chatted a bit about before we started this show together. I think something that you and I chatted about to bring into this conversation was the relevance of consistency with reference to your growth capability. And I think that's a great leeway into this now. And because of the fact that too many people want to jump from 1 to 10 instead of what is between, and the growth capability between level 1 to level 10 are all of those lessons learned that you've talked about, right? And so can you chat a little bit about what that consistency does for growth capability in the procurement process for especially newer businesses they're excited. They think what they do is great. They have great connections that could get them in the door a million different places. But why is it so important that they show and produce that consistency with regard to their growth?
I think consistency manifests in things like certifications, and not necessarily the small business certifications, but things like ISO, CMMI, CMMC, and you can make a whole list of what all these things are. But essentially what they are is a set of operating standards. This is how we're going to do things. This is what we're going to do. So it sets up an immediate framework for expectations within internally and within the customer for what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, what the expected results are going to be. So if I've got consistency and I can show that in terms of a proposal or a project management plan, I have a much higher degree of getting a common ground that this is what the customer really expects they're going to see. And this is what we expect we're going to have to do. So there's not the surprise that, oh, you didn't deliver this, or you didn't deliver that, or we need you to deliver this. Well, that's not in the statement of work. So you've got a lot of pieces that go in there. So I'm going to go back now to the issue of procurement ready versus business ready. The external focus of procurement ready of what the customer wants isn't going to change much. It becomes more comprehensive as you get bigger requirements, but it's still that external look. You look at the business ready side, and now it's kind of changing because you've got a lot more things to look at. You mentioned funding. Well, I don't want funding to be a last piece, particularly if I'm looking at some large contract. It ain't fun. It's oops. I only have one house, one car, and they're already, so what do I do? And that's part of the planning process of what do I look at? Just because I can win it, and just because I think I have the technical expertise, it doesn't mean I have everything in place to do that. Simple things like timesheets, how I take my timesheets from a small number of people to a large number of people. Different process, different challenge. And if you're not ready for that, you may not be ready for larger work. So I'll bring that back into the business ready starts to differentiate itself from procurement ready in the context of strategic versus tactical. Procurement ready will always be tactical. Business ready can be either or both, but you're looking more at the strategy. And when you ask about consistency and you get into the certifications, it becomes, why am I doing the certifications? Mm-hmm. In a procurement ready perspective, I'm going to want to get a CMMI level 3 because I need that to qualify for procurement. Mm-hmm. In a business ready context, I'm going to get CMMI level 3 because I want to have the consistency, the repeatability, the setting of the expectations, and it's going to be important from how I operate from the program management piece to the execution piece, and it's going to make a big difference in ultimate profitability.
Right.
So I can spend a lot of money with a consultant or an advocate for any one little piece, and what I'm going to have is a check mark that I can go up to any one of these now self-scoring things or anything that says I need to have a CMMI. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't mean I'm going to be, it doesn't add to my ability to be successful in the implementation, and it doesn't really add to, even more important, my profitability.
Right. And I think that's key. I mean, right, we're not in the business as a charity for most of us, right? We're in the business to make a profit. And I think people overcomplicate the process by thinking if they slap on a bunch of certifications that they hop to the top. And every time I've stood at an event and watched a business walk up to, an OSDBU table or a small business director for a large prime table and lead with their certifications, they immediately get stopped. I don't care. What can you do to support my mission is what is priority number one, not what certifications you hold. I mean, there's always going to be those set asides that are important, right? I mean, I've got someone reached out to me today, actually. They haven't even started their business yet, right? We're in the process of starting our business. We want to know how to fill out our ADA application. Can you hook me up with someone that can help me do that? You haven't even engaged in the environment yet. And you realize that there's a a time clock that starts ticking as soon as you get that certification with that. And we find we get it all the time. You know, I mean, certifications are not a bad thing. They're great, right? They contribute what they will to your process, but you can't lead with that. We've got too many reasons these days, especially that isn't the way to walk into your procurement process, is leading with your certifications, right? Proficiencies to mission are first. And so I think, you know, that's a great distinction there, because a lot of people think about, well, if I don't have one of those certifications, I'm never going to get, there are more opportunities out there outside of set-aside that you can apply for than just what a certification can provide.
I will supply you with one of my other briefs that I give at the, that I started giving at the Veteran Institute for Procurement at their start class. And it has to do with certifications and, you know, the concept that, yeah, I'm an 8A. And I had to go through the social disadvantage narrative early, which was a very tough journey. You know, I think people are starting to see that now as the court case from Tennessee has said, hey, okay, based on Ultima, we're going to require you to do these things. So it's kind of turned it somewhat topsy-turvy.
Yeah.
But in there, the basic tenet was, yeah, you can become certified in any one of these things. And all that guarantees you is you get a check mark. It's not going to make you competitive. It's not going to make you give you the capability to do things.
Right.
So the only thing I showed is that, yes, I definitely am certifiable.
Me too, just in a different way. Well, you know, that's kind of a great leeway. I think, you know, this has been amazingly insightful. I think you and I could probably chat all day long based off of the things you know and your expertise and your tenure in this industry. And I know that those that listen to us regularly are going to lean into your ability to convey a message in a very understandable way, because government contracting can be confusing and can be overwhelming. And so if someone listening right now wants to chat with you and set up a consultation, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you and your team?
Send a check. You've got my contact information.
Yes.
You know, so the best way is send a text or an email.
Okay.
And recognize that I get a lot of texts and emails from both legitimate and charlatans. You know, the more you do, there's a large opportunity for me to give away a lot of money to people that say, hey, give me your money and I'll do these wonderful things for you. And the converse of that is, you do those wonderful things, you can have as much money as you've earned.
Right.
No, you know, so it's I think the first time I won a GWAC contract or something similar, I got a call saying, if you give me 5 people, I'll go do marketing for you. The response is not publishable here. And it was just one of, you start to see a lot of people, and ultimately you get to the point where I think everybody that's listening or watching gets a lot of calls for, hey, lend us, we'll lend you $500,000 unsecured. You're in the business of doing that, and you probably look and say, yeah, if you see one of those, it's a scam. I wouldn't, I mean, essentially to get a loan, the personal information I have to give away, I've just lost my business, I've lost my home, I've lost my car, and I lost all this other stuff. So you got to give me a way when you contact me to let me differentiate between, yeah, I'm somebody that really has a need. I want to get the advice, versus, hey, I'm just after some money and I'm going to take your money and not do a damn thing for you.
Yeah, that's not helpful. So we encourage everyone to reach out to me if you want to connect with Marc personally, but also we've put several times, and we'll share again, your website. Great place to start to see what capabilities are for your company is start there. And if someone needs an introduction, happy to make that connection for you. But I agree, no need to waste any time with people who aren't serious about this industry. There's plenty of those who are are craving for what you can offer and are serious about it. And so we'll make sure that we help vet that process as it comes out of this program. But
Teresa, one key piece of that I want to emphasize is we've achieved significant success over the last 4 and 5 years. And really good success. And part of that has been due to a lot of other folks like that have helped me to go through, and I haven't had to have the personal lessons learned. I could take advantage of their experience, their knowledge, you know, to do this stuff. So we're looking back at, I want to find some additional businesses that we can qualify and help them to get to where they can be in a prime contractor role for various opportunities and things. So it's a kind of a give back.
Yep.
But it's also a don't BS me.
Right.
Come at me kind of serious, and we'll find a way to get you under the umbrella, give you some experience, and see what you're capable of doing.
I love that. You know, I mean, it is definitely returning the favor is important. This is a small community. Even though there's lots of businesses that engage, we all one way or another are connected. And so being able to give back based off of what you've been given, I think is a great way to do business. And I love that. I hope that in the future you'll come back. We've got so many other things that we could talk about, and, you know, certifications, all kinds of different things. So I hope that this wasn't too much of a burden to your schedule and you'll be willing to come back again sometime.
There's lots of things I can talk to you about. You'll get some ideas when I send you some of the briefs awesome. That I'm ready to talk about. Pretty much just call me up and I'm ready.
I will. And I appreciate you so very much. Thank you again, Marc, for joining us, sharing your time and expertise with our network. I encourage everyone to check out Marc and his team at Goldschmitt and Associates to see if they can assist you in your work. We pride ourselves on this program in sharing the most insightful and exciting people and information to help you better navigate your GovCon journey. If you like what you heard today, you can see all of our past podcasts, which are archived on our YouTube channel by the same name. Stay tuned for all of our future guests in the coming months as we help you make 2024 the best year yet. I'm Teresa Moon, and this is Spilling the Tea on GovCon. Have a great day, my friends.
Thank you.